Hi, my name's Renata. Welcome to my YouTube channel. This channel is dedicated to three different areas. The first one is intercultural communication and expat life. The second one is business skills and job search across cultures. And the last one is foreign language learning. This particular video is part of the first category, intercultural communication and expat life. It's about culture shock. So, no matter whether you have actually lived abroad as an expat or you're about to do that, or if you have just traveled abroad or worked in an international corporation, have international neighbors, or are in any situation, you may be even watching a foreign video from another culture, you may have experienced something like culture shock. So, I'm going to talk about what it is and certain strategies to alleviate culture shock. So, if you work in this international environment, or if you're about to move abroad, and if you want to know what culture shock is and how to best deal with it, then this video is for you. It'll take about 20 to 30 minutes, and then I'll come back to this platform here where you can see me again. While I'm presenting this topic to you, I'll be sharing my slides as always. So just kick back and enjoy this presentation about culture shock and some strategies how to deal with it. So this is what's in the presentation today, today's content of this video. Of course, I'm going to show you my own culture shock countries, just as some background information. You may already know if you've watched some of my videos before. The stages of culture shock, just theoretically, the background information from intercultural research and studies, but also my own different culture shock curves that I've experienced over time with my own clients. And then, of course, what can be done, some strategies to alleviate culture shock, and finally, a question of perspective, just to give you a few more ideas towards the end. So, without any further ado, let's talk about my own culture shock countries. And I'd like to start with those four. Well, starting with the US American flag, the country where I live and where I have lived for the past 15 years, plus, well, it's been more than 15 years. And before that, I lived in the UK. And before that, I lived in Germany and, well, mixed in between in Italy. So the UK, Germany, Italy, these are all European countries. So I've obviously lived in all of them on and off for some time, back and forth, before eventually moving to the US about 15 years ago. But over this entire period of time, I have worked with people from around the world. I've also visited many different countries for business and for vacation. So I've had my own fair share of culture shock with a variety of countries and cultures that I can draw on. So every flag that you see represents every experience I've had. These are the main countries and cultures I'm familiar with, I've traveled to, or I've had lots of clients from this country. So I kind of know how culture shock can even happen when you just interact with people from this country. You don't even have to travel there. That's not necessary to experience culture shock. But what is culture shock? So from a, let's say, academic point of view, from research, we often hear about the U curve or the W curve. This is what they refer to. It's like a roller coaster. And what we see are two phases. The first phase is the expatriation when you go abroad, and the second phase is the repatriation when you go back home. And we see this movement of up and down on two axes with the mood versus time. Now, according to research, we see four distinct phases as people go abroad. The honeymoon phase, where everything is great. You're really looking forward to the new place. After all, you signed up for this. You really want to do this. And when you arrive, everything is so cool, so different, so fantastic, much better than everything back home, until you realize, well, this doesn't work. That's not as good as at home. And I miss this and I miss that. And there's a certain time that you go through the frustration phase. After a while, you pick yourself up, and this is also what this presentation is about towards the end. How do I alleviate culture shock? How do I manage for the roller coaster to go back up? How do I go from the frustration phase to the adaptation phase? Because that's when everything gets better, when I get adjusted, when I realize there's actually no better or worse, there's just different. You learn how to navigate the other culture. And the last phase is when you finally arrive back home. It's when you feel like you have accepted where you live and you are being accepted by others. It feels kind of normal to live there. You know how to navigate everything in that new culture. However, this is when, for many expats, their expatriation ends and the company sends them back home. They think nothing happens because they're going back home. But you can also experience repatriation culture shock. It can actually be worse for some people, and you go through the exact same phases, maybe not the exact length and depth, but you will go through the honeymoon phase. You're so happy to go back home, finally going to see my friends and family. And then you go through the frustration phase where you feel like, what, nobody's really interested in my experiences that I've had abroad. They even say I'm different. They don't recognize me anymore. I've changed. They don't really know who I am anymore. I don't feel that I fit in because I'm so very much used to the other culture. And so I have to go through frustration and adaptation again before I reach acceptance phase and I can live comfortably back home as a returned expat. Now, obviously, this curve isn't exactly that linear. That's a theoretical curve. This is why I wanted to show you four alternative curves, what I've experienced with some of my clients. I help through repatriation, expatriation, relocation, working internationally across cultures, and so on. So same model of mood versus time and the two periods of expatriation and repatriation. But here's our first curve. Not as steep, not as linear. It could look like that. The honeymoon phase is clearly visible. There's a bit of a frustration phase, but it's not too deep. And then slowly but steadily, the curve keeps going up. It's like getting better every day, every week, every month, and then we reach acceptance. And we actually reach acceptance for quite a while at the very end. So this could be a working expat with corporate culture. Corporate culture is something that protects most people from a deep frustration phase and a really heavy impact of culture shock because at least they still work for the same company. In another country, yes, and everything outside the country may be very, very different, but at least they have their corporate culture to hold on to. That really alleviates a lot of the pain. And maybe they even have corporate support, relocation support, and that would make the frustration phase even shorter and not as deep as for other people. But we could also see this curve, and that could be the working expat's spouse. Many, many times I've worked with couples, I've seen this over and over again, that the working expat has a much easier time getting adjusted, protected by corporate culture, like I said, whereas the expat spouse is left to their own devices at home, often dealing with other chores and organizational tasks and errands and kind of really getting adjusted in the culture, having to communicate with the people outside the house in the community, running all those errands, trying to get information, or even finding a job for themselves because the spouse is the one who has to give up their job in order to follow along the expat with a contract. So the frustration phase is usually much deeper for an expat spouse. So if you're the working expat and you're about to go abroad with your family, Please bear this in mind. You need to provide extra support to your family. They are much more vulnerable to the frustration phase, and they will find it much harder to go into adaptation phase and probably will never feel as comfortable in the target culture as you do. But what happens when you go home? What happens to these two people when they return back home? Well, the expat might be happy at first, but then, like I said, repatriation can be hard for expats, especially when they had a great time abroad. When they feel like, this is actually very cool. I like it here. Maybe I should stay, but then the contract ends. You got to go home. Your colleagues do not appreciate your added value, your added experiences, your added cultural competence to them. You just have to be the normal you back home, but you're not the same person anymore. You're different. Maybe they don't understand you anymore. Maybe the next career step isn't as great as you thought. So there could be a lot of frustration going on for expats returning home if the expatriation was great. They might even ask for a next expatriation. I've worked with people who came home, settled in at home for a little while, but then said, can't you send me somewhere else? And they were so happy to go off to the next destination. Whereas for the expat spouse who had a harder time abroad, returning back home, well, there's also a honeymoon phase and a frustration phase, but it could turn out to be better back home, and the adjustment maybe happens quicker for the expat spouse. But there are other situations, like this one here, up and down and up and down. Yes, eventually makes it, but really struggles to get adapted, adjusted, and fit in. Well, this could be an unsupported expat who's outside their comfort zone. So if they have absolutely no support, or if they go on their own, they have no training, they have no coach, they have no help, they really have to learn it the hard way. They're left to their own devices. It's a constant fight to get adjusted. They eventually make it, but they're really relieved when they go back home and say, well, it was really hard and I don't think I want to go back. So that could be a typical curve we see without support. And finally, unfortunately, we do see cases like this. People are happy to go, then the frustration phase sets in and they actually never recover from it. They can't find anything good in the new place. And the only time the mood curve goes back up is when they hear that it's over and they're going back home, and they would feel very happy back home. This is what we would call a failed expatriation. It happens. It's very unfortunate. And it's very important that when you're in that situation that you reach out for help, that you find other expats. And there are a few other things you can do that I want to share in this presentation with you. So what are some things you should do? I've decided to split them into two parts, before you go and after arrival. So you can get started preparing before you go. Ideally, you would start thinking about this long before you go. You should really get as much information as possible. Start with reading up on anything you can get about the country in general. That would be a good starting point. But you should also get some pre-departure into cultural training, which includes usually self-awareness and what to expect, getting to know the other culture, being able to do your gap analysis between your own preferences and the cultural standards there, learning how to get adjusted, what is common, what is usual, and so on. Get started with your intercultural training before you go. The more you know before you go, the better. Also plan ahead. Make a to-do list, not only for your household items, what goes into which box, but other things that need to be arranged and organized and you want to do or you have to deal with once you arrive. Also arrange local destination support upon arrival. If you are a corporate expat, this is probably something your company will arrange for you. But not everybody is that lucky. So have a look around. Can you find local groups, local expat groups, communities you can join? The more support, the better. Make sure you already know where you can go for support before you go on that plane. Also, give yourself enough time. Don't rush things. And the most important thing, expect difficulties. If you're going to a country that you don't know at all, that you expect to be difficult, then you probably have an easier time because you put all this time and effort into preparing. But what I often see is when people go from one country to another country that they deem to be very similar, then they make the mistake of not expecting difficulties, and that's a tricky trap, a pitfall to fall into. So do expect difficulties, no matter how similar you believe the other culture is, because it's not. Then, once you arrive, here are a couple of things you can do. Well, you should continue your in-country intercultural training. Hopefully, you can continue working with the same trainer or find a local person once you arrive. And you should accept that there is no better or worse. You will be very judgmental at the beginning, but please do come to the conclusion that things are just different, not necessarily better or worse. Also, set yourself some SMART goals. SMART is an acronym for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time, meaning every goal you set yourself, what you want to do in the foreign country, from integration to language skills to career goals to free time activities or other things you want to do. I want to buy this car and I want to have a house here, or I want to travel. I want to do all sorts of things. Whatever goals you may have, make sure they're specific. Not in general, I want to feel comfortable here. Well, that's not a very specific goal. Be more specific what that means to you, and that will make it measurable. Also, don't have unrealistic goals. If this is a foreign language to you and you just started learning it, you can work, say, in English, but in your free time, you have to interact with others in that foreign language. Don't say, I want to learn the language in a year and I want to be like a native speaker in a year. That might be very unrealistic. So keep it achievable and keep it relevant to you. It should be relevant to your life. Don't say, I'm going to take fancy certificates while I'm in the foreign country. Well, if that's not useful to you for your life, it's not relevant, then it's not a good goal or a smart goal. And make sure you put all of those goals into a time frame. So you shouldn't just say, well, I want to learn the language at some point. Well, that's not a smart goal. Have step-by-step goals, milestones, and hold yourself accountable to achieving those goals. Have an action plan, and things will go smoothly. Also, seek help and build a support network. You can't do this alone. The sooner you find a community to join, a support network to build up, then that's when things start improving. You also want to see what you're already willing to do. Have your save areas and your adventures. So first, you might feel more comfortable meeting people from your home country who have lived in the other country for a while. They might be a great starting point. You feel safe with them. They are from your own culture. They speak your language. Then you can stretch your comfort zone a little bit. Maybe you stretch it to meeting other expats from other countries. And finally, you can venture out and meet locals depending on how well you speak the language, start communicating with them in the local language, go on a few adventures, become more adventurous over time, step by step. And the more you do this, the more you stretch your comfort zone without breaking it. That's important. If you do too much too fast, you're going to break your comfort zone. That's not what you want to do. You want to take your time, but have goals and keep going steadily. And once you've achieved something, please do not forget to celebrate every single milestone along the way. Now, research has shown us that there are certain personality traits that are more conducive to being successful abroad than others. So consider this a bit of a checklist. So as we're going through the checklist, ask yourself, is this me? Yes or no? Am I very open-minded for a different perspective? Do I enjoy that? Is that exciting or does it frighten me? So as we're going through the list, ask yourself, how much of that do I have? The more, the better. Also, what about my respect for different way of life? Can I fully understand and tolerate that people want to live in a different way? I'm actually curious about it, or does it frighten me? Uh, like I said, curiosity versus fear. That's the most important question. When something is different, what do you feel? More of a bit of curiosity, or are you a little bit afraid? The more curiosity you feel, the better. Do you have a sense of adventure? That would be great. Are you full of optimism? That would help. Also, your confidence. The more confidence you have, the better. Resilience, patience, and the ability to listen, observe, and learn. So that is your checklist. The more things you can check on that list, the easier it will be for you to successfully expatriate and to alleviate the pain of culture shock. Towards the end, I want to leave you with two more concepts how to deal with culture shock. Here's the first one. When you pack all your boxes and your suitcases and you make lists of what goes where, maybe you should also work on two other lists, the must-haves list and the deal breakers list. What I mean by that is the following. You have must-haves, you're probably not even aware of them. So I want you to start a list. What are the things that you must have in your life that make you happy, that make you feel comfortable? If these things on the list are not available to you or are not common, then you will have a hard time because that's something you absolutely need to survive. Let's put it that way. That's one list. The other one is the deal breakers lists. What are the things that really drive you nuts? It makes you angry. It makes you feel uncomfortable. It makes you feel insecure. You really don't like when that happens. You don't want to have that anywhere near you. It's not how you live your life. Think about some deal breakers that you really can't have in your life. And then look around in your new culture. How many of your must-haves are actually fulfilled? What do you not have, maybe not have yet? How can you add those important things to your life that will make you much happier and help you recover from that frustration phase and the culture shock? Also, the deal breakers. Maybe there are a couple of deal breakers in your target country. Think about how you can avoid them, how you can deal with them, how you can learn what it means, better understand, and then learn to accept and tolerate. That's very important when you work with must-haves and deal breakers that can really help you feel happier with your new place, your new home. And the second concept, please do not forget how far you have come. A lot of people feel like this. They're struggling uphill. It's a hard and stony path uphill. If you keep looking up, if you keep looking at the hard, stony path and that the top of the mountain is far, far away, you will probably get frustrated more often than not. So when you come to that frustration phase, don't forget to turn around and look down and appreciate all the things you've already achieved. This is how far you've come. This is a great way to deal with frustration and to pull yourself out of culture shock. I very much hope these tips and tricks and strategies will help you. If you have any further questions or want to work with me as an intercultural trainer, this is where you can find me. You can look online for my name, Renate Urban, or my company name, Urban Training and Services. This is my website, and you can connect with me on LinkedIn to see what articles I've published there, or just reach out to me through that platform. So thank you very much for watching. I hope that everyone out there who is moving abroad, thinking about it, or is already out there, feels a bit more confident with that. And like I said, if you have any questions, please reach out to me and let me help you. And well, keep coming back to this YouTube channel. There will be more videos all the time. So welcome to the community and please subscribe and thank you for watching. Have a great day. Bye bye.